is good? Today we will be watching 3 true non-Santa horror stories. You know what I mean? If you like the video, subscribe. I made you laugh, leave a like. And yeah, comment if it was a funny moment. Comment. And yeah, let's get into it. Horror Source Parties, if y'all see this, please do not copyright strike me. I'm at 12 subs. I have 12 subs, and I need something to watch.
Years ago, I was living with my wife and 2 teen boys, and at the time, my twin brother John was living in the shed in the backyard. He had fallen on some hard
No. No. If that is your blood brother,
why are you letting him sleep in the shed?
like, that's crazy. Like, in the shed? He couldn't sleep on a couch? Nigga, the shed?
times after losing his job, so I set him up with a futon and a window AC unit, and I only asked for $200 a month. I myself worked at a computer and phone repair shop. I tried to get John to work with me, but he didn't have any IT or computer repair experience. John struggled to find a job he could stick with. He was a house painter for about a week, a landscaper for just a couple days, and a cashier at a 7-Eleven for nearly a month. Then, he seemed to get a lucky break when he got hired to be a mall Santa in mid-November, about 2 months after moving in with my family. At first, we all made jokes about it, lightly poking fun at the whole idea of a mall Santa, and how weird it was for my kids that their uncle was the guy behind the beer. For my brother, though, it was
Sorry, that is kind of weird, but at the same
We do not care.
very serious and uplifting. It seemed like he had finally found himself a new career. Obviously, he couldn't be Santa Claus year-round, but he said he could find plenty of work in children's entertainment by playing all sorts of characters kids might want at their birthday parties and whatnot. I was happy for him. I hated seeing him in that slump. Now my kids would have a better impression of their uncle and could visit him at the mall, fully embracing being the oldest kids to sit on his lap just to bust his chops on the job. Every dinner, we loved hearing about his mall Santa stories and about the strange things kids wished for. Then, one day in early December, John asked me to repair his laptop. He said it had just randomly stopped turning on. I told him I would fix it for free since he was family, but he would have to wait in the queue at my shop. He understood it would take a few days, though I promised I'd do it as quickly as I could. However, it wasn't even 2 days before John showed me just how desperate he was to get his computer back. I woke up one night to him standing over me in a Santa Claus costume, whispering,
What would you do?
"Matt, wake up." What's going on, John? "Matt, how much longer before you fix my computer?" "I told you, man, it's gonna be a few days. I'll try to get it to you by Friday."
No! Not Friday! Tomorrow! I need it now! I can't go another day without it!
You got something on that computer.
After grabbing me by the collar and nearly pulling me out of the bed just to scream in my face about getting his computer back, he dropped me back down and walked away like he hadn't just terrorized my wife. She woke up during the encounter and started screaming, thinking we were being robbed. I explained to her that it was just John.
Yeah, nah, it's just John. It's just John. Regular Tuesday for John.
Lengthy conversation. She convinced me that it was time to kick John out. He'd saved plenty of money by then and was ready to get his own place. Disrespecting me in my own bed like that had just accelerated things. The next morning, I let John know that he had 2 weeks to move out and that I'd have his computer back to him at the end of the day, so he could start looking for places. John looked me in the eye and said he didn't care that we didn't want him around. He just wanted his laptop. I left the interaction alone before it got any more negative. I couldn't take someone half-dressed as Santa Claus seriously anyway. I drove to the shop and started working on John's laptop immediately, skipping about 10 other customers. It turned out to be an easy fix. It just needed a new battery, and I had just the right one in stock. I turned on the computer and charged it up, making sure everything was in working order. Then, I got this feeling. I wanted to check what was on his hard drive. I had never, and have never since, looked through someone's personal data. It's a huge violation of several privacy laws, and just plain wrong to do. But with how badly John wanted his computer back, almost like he was fiending for it, there had to be something interesting on it. I started looking through his files, and I can't say exactly what I saw, but I can say there was a lot of it. What I saw was the most despicable footage and imagery of the horrific exploitation of the most innocent people possible. He even had pictures of my own sons, too.
You what?
I couldn't bring myself to look through all of it, but the main offending file I found was over 200 gigabytes. This was over a decade ago, so especially at that time,
200 gigabytes? He has so, bro. That's a lot. Bigger than Red Dead Redemption.
entire hard drive. I immediately called my wife to leave the house and to make sure the kids didn't come home from school. I then took John's laptop to the police station and showed it to them, leading to my brother's arrest. He was later sentenced to 8 years in prison. He got out 4 years ago, but I haven't seen him. People sometimes ask me if I ever feel bad for sending my brother to prison, and the answer is always no. He may have been famous, but he was a monster. He lived in my house. He ate dinner with my sons. He came into contact with hundreds of young individuals a day during his mall Santa gig. In a context like that, I didn't regret sending him to prison. I just hoped he'd stay there longer, maybe for the rest of his existence.
I was 22 years old. I had just graduated from college.
That's not a woman. It's a black man.
Finding the job searching process for my career to be harder than expected. To hold me over until I could find a proper occupation, I picked up a job as one of Santa's helper elves at a local mall. For the most part, I liked the job. I knew it would only last for about 2 months, and all the other elves were women too, so we got along well. 5 days out of the week, I went in the morning to help set up. Then in the evening, we closed things down and went home. The job didn't consist of many headaches aside from the occasional crying kid.
Look at him in the background.
I'm over here stroking
Just
my
look at
dick.
him.
I got lotion on my dick right
I want to trust him with my kid.
Help them down after they made their wishes, press a button on a camera if they wanted a picture, and take payments.
Yeah, Elf himself? Why his ears so pointy? He is geeked.
Concerned me. Santa himself, as I will refer to him, had some
not
questionable
Santa.
behavior. The guy gave us the creeps. He once asked us if there was any way we could change our costumes to make them more revealing so we could attract more customers. We all just kind of wrote it off as a joke, but it didn't exactly sit well with us. He also had a tendency to supposedly bump into us accidentally. It was obvious the creep was trying to cop feels or something like that. And what made it more disturbing was how he was able to take advantage of female guests using the Santa Mall gig. He must have had a hand in the hiring process and selected only young women, because it couldn't have been a coincidence that we were all so similar. Despite that, I didn't report him. I was naive and didn't want to come across as vindictive for coming out with a list of 100 little things he did.
100 little things is 5 big things.
To get annoyed with it. We only had 2 more weeks before the Santa program was done. Then, one night, in the last week before Christmas, things got out of hand. The week was very busy. We had some elves call out and leave early because they were getting overwhelmed, but I stuck it out and even stayed later than usual to help clean up the mess. By the time the Santa area closed down, Santa and I were the only ones left on the team. The entire mall was basically empty. We just had a skeleton crew of a few security guards and shop owners with a few stragglers still shopping. I was sweeping the little house when Santa came up and blocked the doorway, cornering me inside.
You should have went home. Who told you to stay late hours for this weirdo?
doing?
You call all of us your favorite.
But you've been working so hard. Now it's time for me to reward you with something hard, like a candy cane.
Whoa, okay, back it up. I'm gonna give you a chance to rethink that and
Wanna ride Santa's sleigh? I'll let you ring my jingle bells.
You's a freaky ass nigga!
Bells. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey.
I shoved the broom and dustpan at him and forced my way out of the house. He tried to grab my wrist on the way out, but I slapped it off. I started walking as fast as I could toward the
Walking? You're supposed to be sprinting.
could get my clothes out of my locker and leave. I entered one of the service hallways, and the dim yellow lights and concrete walls made me feel a sense of impending doom. By the time I made it to the break room and got my keys out to unlock it, Santa had entered the service hallway behind me and was making his way towards me. I got the door unlocked and hurried inside, racing over to my locker. I could hear his heavy footsteps approaching as I frantically looked for the little key, opened the locker, grabbed my stuff and went back to the door. I was hoping to slip past him before he caught up, but when I opened the door, he was standing right in.
Now look at you. You decided to be a good guy.
I backed away in fear as he stepped in and closed the door.
There's no getting away this time. I've got something I want to show you.
Suddenly, Santa dropped his pants, exposing of me, hitting me against the floor as I fought back with everything I had. I kicked and screamed and managed to get the freak off of me. Then I got up and sprinted down the service hallway and re-entered the main corridor of the mall. When I found a security guard and told him about the ordeal, I was stumbling over my words because of the panic. The police were called and later arrested him. He was taken away in a cruiser and charged accordingly. I've never been able to not think about him attacking me whenever I see anything Santa related. I always wondered what could have happened if I had not fought him off of me. Things would have most definitely gone to the worst case scenario. If you or any other woman you know are facing harassment, don't let it slide. It can get ugly at any moment. Happened a few weeks before Christmas. I went to the mall with my parents and some other relatives, hoping to find gifts for my husband who wasn't with us at the time. When we got there, we noticed a huge line surrounding the Santa Claus set. My little cousins who were with us begged us to see Santa, so after we did a bit of shopping, we got in line to appease them. We planned to all get in the photo together. However, the closer I got to the front of the line, the more I noticed that something was off about the mall Santa.
Here's a little message. Always try.
He was creepy as shit. The way his sunken eyes looked gave me chills. It was weird as hell because the guy kept giving me eye contact. He was supposed to be paying attention to the kids, but he kept staring at me for a few seconds before looking away. My little cousins went up and sat on his lap to make their wishes first. Then, we all got on the platform to take the picture together. We gathered around the Santa, and I ended up right next to his chair. But before the picture was taken, he looked up at me and whispered,
Why don't you get on Santa's lap?
You's a freaky ass nigga!
No thanks.
We then all posed for the photo. A woman who I assumed to be Miss Claus was behind the camera, and she looked just as weird as Santa. She didn't have a beard though, so I could clearly see her creepy smile. I could feel Santa staring at me too, but I refused to look at him. I just wanted to snap the picture and go. But for whatever reason, Miss Claus just couldn't be satisfied with any of.
After that third click, my crew. I don't know what that was, but let's go.
So she made us stand there for what must have been a whole minute, taking photo after photo. It was like getting hit with a strobe light. I could tell my relatives were feeling just as awkward about it, but nobody was brave enough to say anything. Then, Miss Claus got in on things.
Something's just not right. None of these
What's not
pictures
right?
are
Look at
really
thousands.
capturing how beautiful your family is. Green should sit on Santa's lap. Ugh, no thanks.
If you don't sit on my lap, your children are not gonna get any gifts this year.
We buy a gift.
They're not
You know
my
Santa not
children.
real.
Come on, it won't hurt. I'm not that excited yet.
You don't have any children? Don't worry, that can always change.
Suddenly, my father grabbed my arm and pulled me away. Everyone went down the platform and walked off without bothering to pay for the photo. Nobody wanted to have a picture with that creep in it. I could tell my aunt and uncle were furious that they had let that mall Santa get anywhere near their children. It was so blatantly creepy that even my little cousins were uncomfortable. We ended up leaving the mall shortly after. The car ride home was very quiet. We didn't want to discuss what had happened. It was obvious everyone was bothered by the mall Santa. I felt very creeped out by the whole situation. I pushed it out of my head for the next few days. I had a bunch of plans for the holidays, and I didn't want one weird thing to ruin everything. Almost a week later, I went out to a small Christmas party my friends were hosting. After the party was done, I called an Uber to head home. It said it would take around 10 minutes to get there.
How much wanna bet the Uber is gonna be Santa?
A car pulled up to the curb. I didn't know if this was my Uber or not, but after checking the app, the driver was still a mile away, and this car didn't match the color or anything. It was just a random black SUV when I was supposed to be getting picked up by a Prius. I started to back away, but then the passenger door suddenly opened, and a masked man came running out at me. He grabbed me and tried to pull me into the car as I screamed my head off and tried to fight back. I was almost stuffed halfway into the car when I finally got the chance to jab the man in his eye and push him off of me. He reeled back, screaming in pain as I ran toward the door. I banged on it, begging for help. After a few seconds, I turned back to see if the man was still coming after me, but thankfully, he had gotten back in the car and was driving off. By the time the door opened, my friend took me back in, shut the door, and immediately called the police. I was still in utter shock. The cops were called, and they made their report, but nothing ever came of it. I wasn't able to get the license plate, only that it was a black SUV, and that there was a guy that attacked me and the driver. But for whatever reason, I just knew it had to be the same weird Mr. and Mrs. Claus couple from the mall. Unfortunately, nothing ever became of the incident. I didn't have any evidence to get them arrested. I don't know what they had planned to do to me had I been kidnapped, but based on what that woman said about having kids, I have my sickening suspicions. Till this day, I have panic attacks whenever I see anyone dressed as Santa Claus. I just think that it may have been the same mall Santa, and I hardly ever leave the house out of fear that those people may come back to get me.
If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, so why not? And yeah, I don't really know stuff right now, sure, so.
Don't hop in this water if you can't swim. Don't get lost in the sauce trying to dive in. If you wanna pop out, pick your pipe up. If you ain't got this, start hiding. If you ain't coming out, then we coming in. And you already know we brought pipes in. Know we got a lot of shots in the party, but I might catch a body if I see you let a dyke in.